What's up, my people? By the end of this video, you're going to know the 5 most common types of bugs that you might see on your houseplants and how to not only get rid of them, but make sure that they never, ever, never, ever come back. All right? So, a lot of these common houseplant pests can negatively affect the health of your plants, whether it's destroying the leaves or the roots of your plants, or just flying around and driving you crazy. And this is the last thing that you want to see on your beautiful houseplants after you're spending so much time taking care of them. But don't worry, I'm going to show you each of the common bugs that you'll see on houseplants and exactly how to deal with them. And you are definitely going to want to watch till the end because I've got a secret weapon to kill any bugs that might be on your plants and ensure that they will never come back ever again. All right, so you are not going to want to miss that. Let's go, my people. All right, I'm starting off with one of the most common and most annoying pests that people often have to deal with if they've got a lot of plants in their house, and that is fungus gnats. Have you ever seen a bunch of tiny little gnats flying around the plants inside your house? Those are fungus gnats, and they will drive you crazy. All right. When they get really bad, you might even see like a big swarm of them fly up off of a plant when you water it, or even just when you touch it. And this is obviously something you do not want in your house. But fortunately, fungus gnats, at least they're going to really annoy you, but at least they're not going to kill the plants right away. Before they're going to really cause damage to the plant, there needs to be a ton of them, and the problem needs to have gotten totally out of control. Okay, so you've got a little bit of time to figure out how to deal with them. The worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to just really annoy you. If you have plants near your couch or near your kitchen table, you might see them flying around your head, bothering you, flying up your nose. I had a comment on one of my other videos that someone was having problems with fungus gnats that were so bad they were flying up her nose. So you definitely don't want that. But shout out to that lady, because if you watch this video, that's never going to happen to you again. I promise you that. But yeah, if you have plants on your kitchen table or near your couch, like you're eating dinner, you're relaxing, you don't want to deal with these bugs. So you got to get rid of them. And they can eventually start to cause damage, okay? So pretty much they lay their eggs in the top inch or so of the soil, and once there's a bunch of larvae in the soil, those can start to damage the roots, okay? Um, the actual flying little gnats are not going to really cause much damage. It's just the larva that is in the soil. Fortunately, they only lay their eggs in the top inch or so of the soil, and the soil needs to be wet. So they're actually fairly easy to get rid of. It's not that bad at all. Since they need the soil to be wet, the first thing that you should do is let the soil dry out. The most common cause of fungus gnats is overwatering your plants. So just right away, if you see fungus gnats, start cutting back. Let your plants dry out more in between each watering, and that's going to help a lot right away. Once the soil is dry, once you've let it dry out, you want to scrape off the top like inch or so of the soil. Just kind of scrape it off, get the little bit of soil, and throw that away. Okay? Throw it like throw it in the garbage, honestly. You don't want that soil, you don't want those fungus gnat eggs. Get it in the garbage. All right. So that's the first step. To make sure you've got rid of all of them, you're going to want to use hydrogen peroxide. Okay. So you can basically what you can do is soak the top of the soil with hydrogen peroxide. You're going to want to use a mixture that is about 4 parts water to 1 part hydrogen peroxide. So you can mix that up in a cup and just pour it kind of evenly across the soil. But the way that I do it, what I think is the easier way to do it is just to do it in a spray bottle. Okay? Because if you're pouring a cup in there, like, if you're careful, you can do it well. But pretty much you don't need to get very deep. If you've already scraped off the top inch of the soil, then you just want to pretty much coat the top of the soil. So I think it's better just mix it up in a spray bottle and spray it down. And it just makes it easier to spray the whole surface of the soil and to ensure that you're going to get them all. Okay? This should definitely take care of the problem, and no more fungus gnats should be able to be born out of that soil. But if you want to go the extra mile to take care of the problem and make sure they're never going to return, you can pour sand or pebbles on the top of the soil. Okay? So basically, like what I would do is pour a little layer of sand and then pour rocks over that. And I think that like having these little rocks or pebbles covering the surface of your potted plants, it actually looks really nice. And you can get like river rock or basalt, or you can get different colors of rock. And it just looks cool anyway. I think like there's no harm in just doing that anyway. Even if you don't have fungus gnats, it will help protect against fungus gnats in the future. So that's what I would do. Okay, scrape off the top inch, get that hydrogen peroxide on there, and then cover it with sand, cover it with rocks. Then pretty much you're going to be ensuring that you are never going to have to deal with fungus gnats ever again. And you're going to be making your plant look nice too. So I think it's a win-win. Another really cool way to deal with any remaining fungus gnats still flying around is to get a Venus flytrap. I've mentioned this in another video, but I think Venus flytraps are kind of the most natural way of all of getting rid of bugs. So I would get a Venus flytrap or two, or three, depending on how many plants you have in your house, set them around. And, they're just nature's way of getting rid of these annoying little flying insects. They'll get rid of flies and other stuff as well. And they just look really cool. And so I would do that as well. Get some Venus flytraps and just put them around the house. So while the fungus gnats are definitely really annoying, you can get rid of them fairly quickly with minimal effort. Unfortunately, the rest of these common plants are going to take a little more work to get rid of, but don't worry, I'm going to show you exactly how to get rid of them all. Next, we are going to be talking about scale. If you've ever seen these little circular brown or black dots on the leaves of the plants, that's scale. They're these tiny little bugs that attach themselves onto the leaves, and they basically start to slowly suck out all the nutrients and suck out all the moisture from the plant. And they're going to cause the leaves to turn yellow and dry up and die. Even more annoying is that they leave behind this residue on the leaves that ants like to eat, so also attract ants. If you see scale on any of your plants, the first thing you're going to want to do is remove all the leaves that have it the worst. You don't want to remove too many leaves and shock the plant, but depending on how many leaves the plant has, remove as many as you can. Remove the ones that have the most amount of scale on it, okay? If you have a huge plant with a ton of leaves, or if you notice the problem before it got too bad and you can afford to remove all the leaves that have any scale on it, then that's the best case scenario, and you can potentially stop the problem right in its tracks. Okay, but if it's already past that point, just remove the leaves that have the most scale on them, and then you're going to want to spray down the plant with something to kill the rest of them. So there are a few options for what you can use to do that. I personally would use either neem oil or horticultural mineral oil, which can also sometimes be called dormancy oil. These oils, they're basically going to coat the leaves and they're going to suffocate the scale. Just make sure that you really get the whole plant and spray both sides of the leaves. The best way to do that is take the plant outside if possible. So you can really spray it down thoroughly without getting all these oils all over your house. And neem oil especially smells pretty bad. So you definitely want to do it outside if possible. Just make sure though to do it on a cloudy day or to do it at night, because direct sunlight hitting the leaves while they are covered in these oils, it can cause the leaves to burn. So I would spray them down at night and then spray the plant down with a hose in the morning to clean them off. I would do this honestly several times to ensure that you've gotten them all. So I would recommend spraying them down every 2 or 3 days for 2 weeks, just to make sure that you've really got them all. Another option is that you can use a mixture of rubbing alcohol and water to spray them down with, which you want to do about 7 parts water to 1 part rubbing alcohol. So it's always going to be more effective to use multiple methods of killing these pests. So if you have rubbing alcohol, you can start treating the plant right away with that, spraying it down with the rubbing alcohol and water mixture. And then when you have time, go get some neem oil, go get some dormancy oil, and start alternating between using these different treatments. And that's going to really just up the chances that you're going to kill them all, and that there's no chance they're going to be resistant to this treatment or resistant to this treatment, because you're covering all the bases. So after you've been spraying the plant down for a week or two, any scale that is left on the plant, it should be dead, and then you can just clean it off and clean off the rest of the plant. So what I like to do is just like kind of go through the plant with scissors and cut off any more leaves that you can afford, that the plant can afford to lose, or scrape off the rest. The back flat edge of the scissor, it works well for just kind of scraping off the leaves. So going through cutting leaves, scraping leaves, and I find that's the best tool to use for cleaning off scale. And once they're dead, they should come right off. So I would clean the scale off. Once they're dead, if you just left the plant, they're probably going to be fine. Like they're dead, so it's not going to come back, but it's still going to look gross. And I would just go that extra step to scrape them all off and clean the plants. So that whole method, takes a bit of time, but within a couple weeks, you should be able to kill and remove all the scale. Scale can take a little bit of work to get rid of, but at least they're not super noticeable bugs, and you can get rid of them before they really are looking really bad and becoming an eyesore for your house. Unfortunately, there is another common and very similar houseplant pest that looks a lot grosser. So if you've ever seen a plant covered in these little white fuzzy bugs, I'm going to show you how to deal with that next. Mealybug, guys. Mealybug is the grossest looking of the common bugs that get onto houseplants, I think, by far. Especially if they get out of hand and start to really cover a plant, they are really gross. So if you have ever seen these on your houseplants, you're going to want to deal with them right away. If you ever see them on your houseplants, right away. Mealybugs, they look almost like little pieces of cotton that are stuck to your plant, kind of like the ends of Q-tips almost, and they are disgusting. You're going to want to treat them very similarly to scale. If you have a good spot to put the plant outside while you could deal with this mealybug, if it's not too cold where you live, I would definitely recommend that. It's going to make the whole process much simpler. If that's not possible, just put down towels around your plant while you spray it down, and just do the best you can. You're going to want to spray the plant down every couple days, ideally alternating between neem oil, dormancy oil, and rubbing alcohol, or at the very least 2 of those 3. I have found that once the mealybug is dead, they will come off a little bit easier than scale. So after a week or 2 of spraying them down and alternating between rubbing alcohol, neem oil, dormancy oil, I would clean the plant off by just spraying it down with a hose. You want to really get in there, and really spray them down hard, spray down all the leaves, all the little, nooks and crannies, get all the spots where the leaf comes off the stem, and really thoroughly spray it down. You can pull off some leaves that have the mealy on it the worst. I think you can get all of them off like that. But if you have to leave the plant inside and you can't get it off, then once you've been spraying it down for a couple weeks with the oils, you should be able to wipe them off. If you just use a paper towel, wet paper towel, or even if you splash a little rubbing alcohol into the paper towel to make sure you're killing anything that's left, you should be able to just wipe them off with a paper towel. But again, if you can put them outside, it's going to make it easier. But that is basically how you deal with mealybug. And while mealybug is really, really disgusting, at least it's fairly easy to kill and it's fairly easy to clean off of the plant at the end. These last two types of common houseplant pests are a bit harder to deal with. I think of fungus gnats as the easiest of these pests to deal with. Scale and mealybug are kind of in the middle, but now we're moving into those really, really the toughest of them all, these pests, the toughest to get rid of. So, if you have any bugs on your houseplants and it doesn't seem like any of these three that I have covered so far, it is likely one of these last two. So, you're going to want to listen closely because I'm going to tell you exactly how to get rid of them right now. Okay, so don't worry a bit. I'm going to still tell you they're harder to get rid of, but I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. All right, guys. Next, we are talking about whitefly, which is one of the worst pests to deal with. Because I've found that not only are they tough to get rid of, but you often don't notice them until they've gotten really bad and they start to drastically affect the health of your plants. Fortunately, they do seem to stick to certain types of plants. So while they are really annoying to deal with, at least the chances of them spreading to all of your houseplants is pretty low. I have found that whitefly, they seem to prefer larger plants with wider leaves, and when it comes to houseplants, they seem to mostly go for ficus trees. So if you have any type of ficus, from a fiddly fig, which is Ficus lyrata, to an Audrey ficus, which is Ficus bengalensis, or the classic ficus tree, Ficus benjamina, if you have any of these, or a rubber tree, Ficus altissima, any of these ficus trees, they are very susceptible to whitefly. And if you have one of them that seems to be suddenly yellowing very quickly and dropping a ton of leaves, it could be whitefly. So you're going to want to check right away. If you have um, if you have whitefly, you're going to know by if you shake the plant, you're going to see these little white insects fly up. Okay, so if you have any of these ficus trees, it's not a bad idea to just kind of shake them every once in a while and make sure that there's none on there. But once you shake the plant, it's going to be very obvious that the whitefly is on there. You're going to see them. So if it does seem like you have whitefly on any of your houseplants, you're going to want to treat it very aggressively. So, like the past couple of pests that I've talked about, if you put the plant outside, it's going to make this whole thing much easier. Whitefly can be so tough to kill that I wouldn't just spray down the plant every few days, but I would try to spray it every day if you can. I've also found that once once you don't see any more of the bugs and it seems like they're all dead, they probably aren't. Believe me, I've made this mistake too many times. So once you don't see any more flying up when you shake the plant, you don't see any of them, keep treating the plant for another week or 2 weeks, ideally. I'd recommend putting the plant outside and spraying it down every day with one of these three treatments we've talked about so far, either dormancy oil, neem oil, or rubbing alcohol and water. Spray it down every day for at least 3 weeks. Okay, so I would spray it down with one of these three things every night and then spray it down with the hose every morning. If you do this for 3 weeks, this will for sure kill all the whitefly. If you can't put the plant outside, Still, just put down towels around the plant and try to spray it down as often as you can. And, in morning and night, alternate between spraying with these treatments and with just water. If you can't bring it outside, it could also be worthwhile to spray the plant down with something stronger than one of these oils that we've talked about, which are all, fairly non-toxic, organic kind of pest control. If you can't put the plant outside, or even if you can and you want to just get right to the problem, get right to the heart of the matter, you can use a spray with pyrethrin in it. So pyrethrin is a bit stronger, but it is still organic. It comes from chrysanthemum flowers. So it's still an organic compound, but it is a lot stronger than neem oil or dormancy oil, and it's going to kill them a lot more effectively. But do not use pyrethrin or any of these sprays with pyrethrin in them if you have cats. Okay, pyrethrin is toxic to cats, and it can cause them to have major health issues. So if you have cats, absolutely do not use pyrethrin to treat your plants. At that point, it would be better to get rid of your plant than to risk exposing your cats to pyrethrin. So believe me, you know, I've got a bunch of cats. I understand, but the cats have to come first over the plants. You guys understand that. So if you anyway, I'm just joking about the throwing your plants away. There's gonna still be a way to treat it. It's just gonna be harder. So if you can't put the plant outside and you do have cats, you're gonna have to just use these other sprays we've talked about and keep it up for a bit longer. I would say spray down every day for like a month if you can. This should do the trick. It's just going to take a little longer. Okay, so whitefly is definitely not ideal to have on any of your houseplants, and it can be hard to get rid of, but at least they seem to mostly stick to certain plants, the ficus trees. Next up, I'm going to show you the hardest pest of all to get rid of, and it is one that can easily spread to all of your plants. You've probably guessed by now, spider mites. All right, spider mites are very hard to get rid of and very annoying. But don't worry, guys. You already know, my people. I'm going to tell you exactly how to get rid of them. And I'm also going to show you the secret for making sure they never come back ever again right now. All right, my people. We have made it to the end of the list. And while all of these pests are a nuisance to get rid of, there is none harder than spider mites. Spider mites are almost microscopic mites that infest houseplants, and they kill them as they spin their webbing over the tops of the plants. If your plant is starting to look unhealthy and you see any kind of webbing over the leaves at the top of the plant, that is spider mites. They go for the new growth at the top of the plant, so that's where you're going to want to look. You can also tell spider mites by they're going to leave like little white dots on the leaves. As it gets bad, it seems to like almost be like fading the leaf or like bleaching the leaf, as there's just tons and tons and tons of little white dots. So look for the white dots, look for the webbing, and it's going to be at the top on the new growth. Treating them is very similar to whitefly. They hate water, so it's going to be much easier to deal with them if you can put them outside. Spray them down every night with some sort of one of these treatments we've talked about, and then spray them down every morning with the hose. Using pyrethrin will also help to kill them more quickly. So, again, if you do not have cats, I would recommend using a spray that has pyrethrin in it. I would keep it up for several weeks. And if there's days where you don't have a ton of time to deal with this, at least spray them down with the hose. Or if it's inside, at least mist them down quick with water. If you don't have time to spray the oil and put towels down, at least just mist down the leaves, because spider mites hate water, and just constantly keeping those leaves wet is going to make a huge difference, and it's going to make it a lot easier to make sure you get rid of them. And when you're spraying them down with water, spraying them down with these oils, with rubbing alcohol, with pyrethrin, whatever it is, you always want to make sure that you're really getting the plant from all angles, and that you're just not missing a single leaf, not missing a single part of one leaf, because if you just miss a few of these spider mites, they can repopulate very quickly. And you might be doing this and your plant looks clean and it looks like there's no spider mites, but if you just missed one, you know, 1/4 of one single leaf that still has some mites on it, give it a couple weeks and they're going to be covering that whole plant again. So just be very thorough, and just like with whitefly, be very consistent and unrelenting. And that is the key to making sure you get rid of them all. Just stay on it for several weeks or a month, and it is possible to get rid of spider mites. But there is a secret weapon, though. As I have said, there is a secret weapon to make sure that they all die and never come back. And it works not just for spider mites, but for any of these pests that I've talked about. And it is called systemic pesticides. Okay? Systemic pesticides are pesticides that you apply to the soil and they get absorbed up into the plant, and they make the whole plant toxic to any of these bugs, to spider mites, to scale, to anything that might get on the plant. If you can't get rid of these bugs, that systemic stuff is going to for sure kill them. And honestly, it's not a bad idea to just put it on there all the time, because it's you can think of it like it's creating like an armor for your plants. Once they've got that systemic pesticide absorbed up in them, no bugs are going to ever get on them. So even if you're not having a spider mite problem or a problem with any of these pests, you could just use it all the time, use it preventatively to make sure you never do get this. But if you've been, if you've been dealing with bugs, with any of these bugs I talked about, you're going to still want to do the treatments that I've described. You're still going to want to clean them off, spray them down, because it's going to take a few weeks for the plant to absorb up that systemic pesticide. And once the bugs are already there, you can't just use the systemic. You got to clean the plant off. You got to start treating the plant right away to get rid of those bugs, and put the systemic stuff on there, and it's going to make sure that they never ever return. I prefer to use the granular systemic pesticide. They can just pour onto the soil about once a month or every 6 weeks, and it's going to just get absorbed up in there. There are also liquids that you can water the plant with, but I just think the granular is easier. So using one of these systemic pesticides, it's going to ensure that all the bugs die and they never come back. So I think as long as you don't have pets, it's not a bad idea to just apply this pesticide once a month, and then just be absolutely certain that you're never going to have to worry about these bugs getting onto your plants ever again. But there's a few things. Like I said, if you have pets, not just cats, but dogs, you do not want to use a systemic pesticide, because it's going to make the plant toxic, but it's going to make it toxic to anything. Okay, so you really can only use this trick to getting rid of the bugs if you don't have any pets. And you also want to make sure you only ever use it for houseplants, because if you use it for anything outside, and especially anything outside that's flowering, it's gonna make the pollen toxic. So if you use it on anything outside, it's gonna kill bees, it's gonna kill butterflies, and that's not something you want to do. Especially if you're a plant person, that is the last thing that you want to do, is kill a bunch of bees. Okay, so do not use a systemic pesticide if you have pets, small children too, and do not ever use it on any plants that are planted in the ground outside. Okay, so aside from that, use it on your houseplants. Believe me, it makes a huge difference. And if you've ever dealt with any of these problems or you're dealing with any of these bug problems right now, you already know. You do not want to have to deal with them ever again. Okay? So, that is the secret weapon, the systemic pesticide. But if you do have pets or if you do have small kids, the best way to ensure that these pests never come back is just to treat them every once in a while, like we've talked about, once you don't have any bugs. So once you've done the system that I have told you and you get rid of all the bugs, just spray the plant down with neem oil once a month, or maybe once a month do neem oil, once a month do rubbing alcohol. Just every once in a while, spray them down, maybe wipe the leaves off with water, just to ensure that no bugs are going to want to go for that plant, or if just a couple are starting to get back onto there, that you kill them before it becomes a problem. Once you have bugs on your plants, you need to be super persistent to get rid of them, as I have described here. But if there's no bugs currently on the plant, just treating it every once in a while is going to prevent the bugs from getting onto it in the first place or getting back onto it. So that is it, my people. That is all the common pests that get onto houseplants. That is how to treat them. If you have any bugs on your houseplants, it is very likely that it's going to be one of these five. These five are much more common than anything else, but depending on where you live or where you're getting your plants from, it is possible that there could be some other type of bug that gets on your houseplants. So if you feel strongly that you have some bugs on your plants that are not any of these five types, then please comment, please let me know, and I will message you and I'll try to help you out with that. But I think, 95% chance it's going to be one of these five. All right, so that is it, my people. I love you guys very much. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope this helped, and I'll be back soon. Love you guys.